Hey guys, it's Crossroads here. Today I want to talk about Nvidia and those beautiful earnings that they just posted and why I think that that saves the stock market. Now, let me talk about what that means first is specifically the market has been pulling down really aggressively. I think that that's probably effectively over. There's going to probably be some turbulence, some up and down, but this might mark the low spot before an inflection except for possibly one little bit of wild card, which is happening probably at the same time as you are viewing this video, since I'm pre-recording this in the evening. Walmart earnings. Walmart earnings will give us a great read on the consumer and consumer health. I think they'll say there's a little pressure on consumers, and that might cause a little bit of a pullback, at least on the lower end side of the consumers. They'll put up really good numbers, though, just because the upper end, if that's the case, they'll be shopping at Walmart a little bit more as well. But unless they say the consumer is just falling apart, I think we're off into the races and we'll have a Santa Claus rally. Why is this precisely? And then let's also look at the Nvidia earnings and some specific things that they said. The biggest piece of this is bears have different elements of this argument, but largely they say that AI is a bubble, AI is frothy. They're not saying it's fake or not real, but also spending is just through the roof on these things, that there's not much meaningful ROI. And Jensen knew all these things, and I knew he would come out swinging. And in fact, with some of the first words that he said on the earnings call, he directly addressed it heads on, as we knew that we would. That's why I was expecting that this might be the turning point for the market here. Looks like it in the overnight markets. Time will tell. But let's take a look at these beautiful earnings and why this is probably going to be a turning point in the overall market as well. Now, this is NVIDIA's numbers, always a great chart to look at. You can see just how much they've grown in terms of data center and other measures as well. But I want to put that in more of a visual. And so here is Fiscal AI. Fiscal AI is a sponsor. It's my first and only sponsor. It's a great product. It's one, again, that I was happy enough with, and just using it for the free trial. I was like, you know what? I don't subscribe to many things. I should probably go ahead and subscribe to these guys. And we worked out a sponsorship deal instead. So that's even better. But yeah, this is a great product, and I want to show you why. So you can see the overall stuff here on NVIDIA. Let's take a look at some of the key numbers and the reason why they did so well. So let's look at total revenues here, and we'll look at the total revenues percent change. And you can see right there, we have a beautiful screenshot. Now, we don't need all these numbers, so let's just go back to maybe 2022. And I want to see them on a quarterly basis instead of annual. So it's going to take just a little bit. So I have a slower computer here. But you can see this beautiful chart. And what's really impressive with this, it might be a little bit hard to see with this color. I could change it, but I'm feeling a little bit lazy here, is you can see that this is an inflection point. That last quarter, they put 55.6% total revenues. We see 62.5% year-over-year growth as well. Of course, the bear thesis is that this would continue to fall down further and further, not just for NVIDIA, but many of these companies as well, the Palantirs of the world, whether it's software side, enterprise side, doesn't really matter. That's what they were expecting, and yet we see maybe a bit of inflection. Now, maybe it's a one-off. I don't necessarily think so. We're also going to look at guidance here in just a little bit too. But you can see this is a meaningful, massive, very nice spike to see that they put in. This is in millions, so this is $57 billion. Now, the shocking thing about this is, of course, they said, well, a lot of this comes through data center revenue. We're going to look at that in just a moment. But they said $3 to $4 trillion, that's with a T, of data center revenue through 2030, which is absolutely colossal. So this looks really good. It's very, very strong here. We're not seeing really any weakness as far as revenues. This is about a 5% beat, a little over a 5% beat in terms of revenue. And of course, the market really liked it. But that's not all that they liked. Let's look at margin, because margin is an important part of this story as well. So we'll remove these here. And let's take a look at gross profit margin. And let's do gross profit as well, because that'll be useful to just see here. And you can see here back on quarterly basis. By the way, in case you're wondering, this number is based on when they actually reported, because NVIDIA is a little bit silly here where they do the fiscal year 2026 or whatever. So I kind of like that they keep it just all the same for Fiscal AI. So you know when they reported, if it's a company that just likes to do their own little thing. So look at this. We can see, of course, this was a big impact during the tariff woes. China revenue was withheld. There's been a lot of issues as well. And what they've done here is it's without Chinese revenue at all. They're not guiding for it. They're not planning for it. They don't have it. And yet, nevertheless, we see this acceleration. Now, also in this as well, there was some transition from Hopper to Blackwell. And as a ramp, as a scale, they mentioned that that would impact margins. But we see this continue to accelerate. And if we look at their actual guidance, we can see that they are guiding for 65 billion revenue, plus or minus 2%. And gross margin right here, which is even more important. They got a lot of questions on this. 75% plus or minus 50 basis points. So that's 0.5%. So they're very confident in getting that number. They might even be a little bit conservative on that end, which brings them back into a really healthy territory. They've guided on this for a while. People didn't believe them, and nevertheless, it's happening, especially as Blackwell continues to ramp up as well. So that is looking incredibly healthy too. Now let's also look at some of the KPIs. And so that's one of the things I really like about Fiscal AI here is you don't just get the headline numbers. You can also do KPIs. You can also do custom metrics, by the way, as well. But here's data center revenue, which is and really tells the AI story. You can see the other sections as well. I don't care as much about them just because data center makes, oh, let me remove some numbers here. I forgot to do that earlier. We don't need gross profit anymore. And there we go. All right. That looks better. So most of the revenue does come from, and we can look at the percent, but I'm not here for this is necessarily from the data center revenue. And so we can see that it's growing quite rapidly. The data center revenue, as far as on this basis, the acceleration is slowing down. There are other products like Blackwell, for instance, that they are ramping. But yeah, things are looking very healthy. They talked about demand as well. This is just very impressive performance overall from something that like this is AI. I mean, they have more products of that are AI facing, but this is the best read on it right here. A product that basically didn't exist is now massive in terms of size and scale and continues to grow. They had a lot of good things to say on it as well. Now, I don't want to just look at charts. I want to also look at what they said during the comments. And so we can see here is the earnings call. By the way, you can listen and listen live. You can do that while you're clicking on other things here. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that for now. And oh, yeah, I've showed you this before. Let me just do this right here. This is the AI summary. Always says AI generated transcript. And you can see it has key highlights here, key takeaways. I went through the whole earnings slide deck that NVIDIA has already. I looked at everything that was said in the transcript and the earnings call as well. Wasn't able to listen to it live, but I did after the fact. And yeah, this did a great job. I'll have to continue to play with it just to have full confidence that this is right and it doesn't hallucinate. But I've not seen it hallucinate once, and I've done this on a number of companies. Now, we can also look at custom summary, and I'm curious about the AI bubble. So let's just type this in and say, did anyone say or do anything related to the AI bubble? And are there any indicators of it being real or fake in these numbers? All right. So let's take a look here. It does take just a minute on this. And so I've asked Fiscal AI, since they have the AI summary and they also have the custom summary, and it just does really well with these. This is almost instant. Custom summary takes just a little bit of a time, and you could type your question. It says right here, Jensen Huang directly addressed the AI bubble discussion, stating there's been a lot of talk about AI bubble. Now let's make sure that this is real over here, by the way, and I can assure you it is. It's going to say bubble all over the place there, but yeah, right here. Thanks, Colette. There has been a lot of talk about the AI bubble. This is the first thing that he said. Like right after the CFO goes through all the numbers and everything, he's like, I'm on the money. From our vantage point, we see something very different. As a reminder, NVIDIA is unlike any other accelerator. We excel at every phase of AI, from pre-training and post-training to inference. With our 2-decade investment in CUDA, X acceleration libraries, we are also exceptional at science and engineering simulations, computer graphics, and so forth. So yeah, he's saying, yeah, people are talking. We're hearing them talk, but man, we are not seeing it on this end. And proof is in the pudding, sure enough. Now, as it goes through here, it talks about further proof against a bubble. Anthropic, that's a recent deal, and it's running up rapidly. They continue to partner, by the way, with all sorts of different companies that are the best of the best, including, I like this right here. Our new partner, Palantir, is supercharging the incredibly popular ontology platform with NVIDIA CUDA X libraries and AI models for the first time. PayPal also partnered with, I mean, it was just so many other companies as well. But yeah, so you go through here and there's a lot of evidence through the numbers, through the indicators, through the KPIs as well, and some direct quotes. Full utilization, clouds sold out, consistently exceeds their expectations for AI infrastructure. They are having insane demand to the point where they can't keep up with it. So, really strong dismantling of a big chunk of the bear argument. But if this was it, I would be like, okay, well, thesis, is I still think very wrong, but it still could be intact possibly because there was another nuance of it. Now, the nuance was, and this is Michael Burry, his account, Cassandra Chain, he technically has two now. I don't know what's going on with that. You can see the views, 5.4 million. His thesis was depreciation. So he said, understating depreciation by extending useful life of assets artificially boosts earnings, one of the most common frauds of the modern era. Massively ramping CapEx through purchase of NVIDIA chips and servers on a 2 to 3 year product cycle should not result in the extension of useful lives of compute equipment. More on that in just a minute. Yet this is exactly what all the hyperscalers have done by my estimates. They will understate depreciation by 176 billion in that year time span. By 2028, Oracle will, and they're like one of the worst offenders there. So you can see this chart, depreciation as they measured it over time. And Meta has increased it from 3 years to 5.5. Google from 3 to 6. That's a doubling. Pretty shocking over 5 years. Oracle from 5 to 6. Microsoft from 3 to 6. Also shocking. And Amazon 4 to 5. Not nearly as much. So, is this true? Is this right? And did they address this very specifically? Why, yes, they did. Let's take a look here. So we're going to look at A100s. This was an example that Jensen used here. He said, thanks to CUDA, the A100 GPUs we shipped 6 years ago are still running at full utilization today, powered by vastly improved software stack. Now, there's more in there that you can read yourself, but let's look back. 6 years ago, they shipped out A100s, and they're still being used at full capacity. Might it make sense? Well, they say because of improved software is one of the features as well. I think there's more to it than that, but that is like the biggest factor. And so might it be that there has actually been a technological shift that allows depreciation to be moved further out for network and compute depreciation, especially as it relates to NVIDIA products? The answer appears to be a resounding yes. And so as a result, the bear thesis is pretty much in shambles. Again, they mentioned $3 to $4 trillion of data center revenue through 2030. There was also a really interesting question by CJ Muse. Let me pull that up here. All right. So here is his question. He said, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the question. There's clearly a great deal of consternation around the magnitude of AI infrastructure buildouts and the ability to fund such and the ROI. That is one of the big questions that still remains. Yet at the same time, you're talking about being sold out. Every stood up GPU is taken. The AI world hasn't seen the enormous benefit yet from the B300. Never mind Rubin. Gemini 3 just announced Grok 5 coming soon. That was a weird statement, by the way, they said. The question is, when do you look at that as a backdrop? Do you see a realistic path for supply to catch up with demand over the next 12 to 18 months, or do you think it can extend beyond that time frame? And NVIDIA goes through this mammoth answer talking about all the different places and ways that they're performing. He talks about partners. He talks about all the ways that their products are using different use cases, ROI as well. And they've already demonstrated this. So this isn't like the first time that he's dealt with the ROI question. He didn't get into the granular level, not really his job to go through and talk about ROI for other companies in the middle of NVIDIA's earnings statement. But it's there, it's massive, and there's leaders that are showing clear ROI, even though some people don't agree. It's right there as far as the ramp. And you can see this in many of these products as well. And so, yeah, good questions overall. Amazing quarter for NVIDIA. And as long as Walmart doesn't come out with something crazy where they say the consumer is really unhealthy and we're all going to be doomed, I think that this is probably going to be the inversion in the macro. Because again, what was blamed on the sell-off was mostly related to AI bubble and CapEx fears. And Jensen and his team absolutely knocked out of the park, not just in terms of the actual numbers, but also in terms of what they said. Now, we can see also, actually, I'm not even going to show this, but the overnight market is absolutely vibrantly green. Even some of those left for dead stocks that, PayPal are even a little bit green as well. So that's a nice thing. This probably is the inversion point. There might be some choppiness as well, but I think the Santa Claus rally is saved thanks to Jensen Huang and team. Now, before I sign off, I demonstrated the Fiscal AI product, and I want to also let you know that there is a link in the description that entitles you to some savings on Fiscal AI. If you want to try it out, you have a free trial, and if you do subscribe, it'll save you 15%, so be sure to use that. As always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing, and until next time, happy investing.